This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Have you heard about the 2018 study that showed half of prenatal vitamins tested had unacceptable levels of heavy metals? No? Well, now you have. I'm Kat, mother of 3 and founder of Ritual, the company making traceability the new standard in the supplement industry. I remember staring at my prenatal vitamins and finding all these things I was trying to avoid. High amounts of heavy metals, synthetic colorants, and unnecessary ingredients. So, at 4 months pregnant, I quit my job and started Ritual because I believe that all women deserve to know what they're putting in their bodies and why. I'm so proud of our prenatal vitamin. The ingredients are 100% traceable, it's third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals, and recently received the Purity Award from the Clean Label Project. You see, we trace like a mother because, let's be honest, no one cares quite like a mother. But don't just take my word for it. Trace for yourself with 25% off at ritual.com/podcast.
We made this.
Hello and welcome back everyone to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. This is our special Fight the Future Minute podcast. I'm Tony Black and you're listening to our coverage of Minute 3 of the X-Files Fight the Future. This minute begins at 2 minutes exactly as we see the Neanderthal men enter the ice cave in 35,000 BC and ends on 2 minutes 59 with the caveman going deeper with fire into the caverns. And to discuss this minute, I'm still joined by my fellow X-Cast hosts and producers, Carl Sweeney and Sarah Blair. How you doing, guys?
Hey, Tony. Doing good, big man. Good.
So, should we be honest about the production snafu that we had with this one?
We've never been honest before, so why start now?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, go for it.
We between the last minute and the minute to come, I think we've gone about 8 months.
It feels like 8,000 years.
Yeah.
It's been 35,000 years.
Yeah. It really does. And I think it's because I completely got my minutes jumbled. And we got to the end of recording and went, have we missed? Did we get that? Have we? So yeah, we're complete. So this one, and we've put at the top of the of this whole minute, Fight the Future Minute project, that we are releasing and recording some of these in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. But this one, we actually are. So by the time you listen to next minute, tomorrow, we've gone back 8 months and the world's fine.
Yeah, so it's not that we've had a long gap between recordings, it's just that human civilization pretty much ended in the interim.
Yeah.
And in the time before.
Yeah.
We recorded and now we are in the time after.
We haven't lost 9 minutes, we've lost 9 months. Basically. So
somebody put an X on the podcast. Spray an orange X on this episode.
So this is strange because we're gonna be coming back. We've recorded lots in between of further minutes down the line. We've still got the final few minutes of the whole shebang to record later in the year. But it's weird sort of going back to the beginning and talking about a minute which, let's be honest, there's not a lot going on, is there, guys? Really?
Just glancing down at my notes here, and it's about 6 words.
Those primitive humanoids are great actors. We don't know what's in their mind, Tony.
Yeah, well, exactly. There could be all kinds of things.
We can't fault them for their lack of language skills.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose we could talk a little bit about the set design of the cave as they go in, because it's the first time we've seen that interior. And the fact that it's all very icy blues and it's quite beautiful in a way, but it's a real cave. That's the key. That's the big shocker for me. It's a real cave, except when they do the close-ups. But there's a lot of natural light in there, and their only worry was that the cave might collapse because it was quite precarious where they were filming. So, I mean, would you guys have thought that it was a real cave?
Yeah, ish. I mean,
I think I would have assumed it was a set until I discovered otherwise, to be honest. But it's really, really striking cave, isn't it? Like, as ice caves go, that's a peach.
Yeah. Have you got a lot of experience with ice caves, Carl?
Well, I am from the north of England, as you know. we don't get much sun up there. Kurt can tell you that. Not really, no. I mean, but this is a good one. I mean, what other great ice caves can we think of from pop culture? I'm thinking of the Ice Hotel in Die Another Day. That's the first one that springs to mind.
That's a good one in a terrible movie. Yeah. Is there an ice cave in The Thing? Because that's all up in the ice, isn't it?
They go to like a crater, I think, don't they? Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a cave. Sort of like a cave, isn't it? God, we're scraping the barrel here for content, aren't we? What is your favourite ice caves in fiction? But no, obviously, it's all about just establishing these Neanderthal blokes who are actually played by the designers of the EBE, the creatures. Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alec Gillis, I think their names are, who did a lot of the effects work. And I think they went on to work on things like Species, or had worked on things like Species, I think.
I used to like that film. That was good. That was Natasha Henstridge, yeah?
Well, yeah. I feel like we should drill down and find out why you liked Species, Carl, because I don't think it was for the effects.
Wasn't... Yeah, I'll pass on that. I think Michael Madsen was in that film, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was a good cast, actually. Ben Kingsley and...
I do remember seeing that at a theatre.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it late night on Channel 5 one night.
Yeah, it's a good channel for it. But have you seen the really bad sequels?
I think I did. I saw one of them.
I think I've seen Species 2. I don't know, how many sequels are we talking?
I think there's a few. I remember there's at least 2 Species sequels. There's one involving astronauts, I think. I think that's number 2. But yeah, I couldn't...
Was there an ice cave in any of them?
I don't know. Sarah, have you seen them? Do you know if there's any ice caves?
It's... No. But I remember something about, like, aliens and people being torn apart and lots of blood and gore. And, like, I don't know. It's been a while. I saw it the one time in the theater back when it came out. Not to age myself or anything, but it's been, 20 years?
I think Species came out...
like I've watched The X-Files.
25 years, I think.
20. I think it was 95, and then I think Species 2 was 97 or 98, and then I think Species 3, I think, was straight to video, so I haven't got a clue, when that was. But anyway, yeah, these guys were good FX, designers, and they helped design the creature. I suppose, indebted to things like H.R. Geiger, for Alien and stuff like that with the EBE eventually. But yeah, I mean, watching this, I just think, how hard would it have been to have been a caveman? Like, in general. Like,
this is something that I think about often as a parent. I think, I'm glad I'm just not a cave mom, because it's hard enough to keep up with my kids as it is. Can't imagine trying to save them from, like, a saber-toothed tiger, or, keep them from eating poisonous berries, or...
Yeah.
Basically, like, I don't know how the human race survived.
But, I mean, look at it from another perspective. Yeah. At least they didn't have to worry about things like Zoom calls, did they? So, there's upsides, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, they didn't have to deal with homeschooling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Zoom fatigue. Have you come across this lately? This whole idea that... Well, apparently there's this theory now that when you're doing, like, Zoom calls to interact with people, and doing seminars or having long meetings... You can't pick up on the actual nuances of the way people act, in the flesh. You can't pick up on the looks and the movements, hand movements. And apparently it's exhausting, like literally psychologically draining, because you have to fix on their face and on the screen. And people have said they've come off these things, they've just collapsed into like a sleepy heap. Because
I can attest to that feeling after doing XCast Live.
Yeah,
I did read about that, Tony, and I think it's very interesting, because they also said something like you have to perform if you're on camera. You feel this innate urge to be like on a stage or to be on.
Yeah,
and I think that makes a difference. Like, I mean, we're Skyping this call on video, but I Skype you guys all the time, so it's not like...
I'll tell you, the problem... But, the problem I've been finding is that there are no more excuses. If somebody asks you to do something, you've got no excuses anymore. It's like, I'm in the house, I can't say no. Case in point, Sarah yesterday asked me to hop on Skype to practice something. I was like, do I have to really? Okay, Sarah, I'll do it for you. But honestly, it's that kind of thing. It's just
I told you if you didn't want to, it was fine, Carl. It's just a suggestion.
Anything for you, Sarah.
Because we're, professionals. Have to rehearse.
Apparently we are professionals, yeah. Apparently. That's the memo.
When did that happen?
I know. I still I've got very big doubts. Can I just check in on the species facts? Well, there's two things. Number one, Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alec Guinness had not Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness.
He would have been interesting.
Yeah, he was finding it hard to get work in '98. He's like, "Do you want to be a caveman, Alec?" Yeah, okay. They had nothing to do with species, so I've completely brought up species for no reason. They did, however, they are involved in Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. So,
okay.
Along similar lines. And there were 4 Species movies. There was Species 3, which came out in 2004, which had a brief cameo by Natasha Henstridge as the Species woman, the alien. And then there was Species 4, The Awakening, in 2007, which went straight to DVD as well. So
I feel like Brandon Shea-Mutala is going to pop up and tell us, actually, Species 4 is the best, something like that.
Yeah, or there's a Species 5 subtitled Children of the Corn. That's an in-joke, guys. Anyway.
The only thought I had about this minute is that it kind of shows how story time works differently from a TV episode to a TV film, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
On TV, this kind of minute would have to be much more economical and compressed, wouldn't it? But they just have a bit more leeway to kind of expand, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily great for us in terms of stuff to talk about here, but it's a nice, moody, atmospheric minute, I think.
Yeah. No, it's quite good. I thought it felt a bit like a horror movie setup in a way. In that you get towards the end of the minute, they're making fire and then they're going through the cave and you hear the wail, like the creature wail in the distance.
Oh, yeah.
And it's creepy. And then they turn with the fire. And, it's unnerving. And obviously, they do look like they're men on a mission. Like they've been tracking this creature, which may well have killed some more of their, cave mates, or whatever they used to call each other back then. And so there's elements to it which I think are good. And the idea of this monster lurking out of sight, which we'll see in a few minutes, it's a nice bit of setup. You're right, Carl. It gives it a bit more breathing room to actually build up tension and atmosphere. Sarah, did you have like something to contribute to this minute though, in terms of a little bit of prose?
Do I have something to contribute? Yes. I'm just going to sit here and listen to you guys talk. Yes.
I didn't quite mean that in that. Come on, Sarah.
I do have some input in front of me from the X-Files novelization here.
Ooh.
Who's that by?
Adapted by Elizabeth Hand.
Oh, okay.
So, it's quite...
So if we got her on the podcast, we could talk to the hand. Hey. Sorry, Elizabeth Hand. If you're listening, that's about... You must have had that joke before, Elizabeth Hand, so I apologise.
Tony. What are we going to do with you? There are some differences in the novelization, but in this particular scene, it's pretty spot on. It's quite exhilarating, and some of the descriptions.
It sounds it from your voice, I have to say.
Yeah.
Come on then, give us a blast.
All right, so let's see. Where should I begin? Oh, here we go. The primitive raises his knife to strike the final blow. Before his arm drops, the creature swiftly attacks. In one motion, the primitive drops the torch, and with his other hand brings his knife forward so that it slides through the creature's upper body. He withdraws it and stabs again, harder this time, while the creature writhes, and the cavern resounds with its cries. He strikes it until it lies motionless upon the floor. The primitive draws back, breathing hard, and leans upon his weapon. In front of him his prey lies dead. Something black oozes from the creature's wounds. In the torchlight, it seems to thicken and pool. As he stares at it, the primitive frowns. There's a tiny fissure in the cavern floor. The black, oily substance moves toward it, not naturally like water seeking its level, but like something alive. He watches, mesmerized, as the oil fills the crevice almost to overflowing, then disappears down the crack. It is several moments before he notices something else. Across his chest are dark blots where the creature's blood has spattered him. The primitive's gaze is drawn to a single, oily drop. He stares at it, brows furrowing. His expression changes from annoyance to curiosity to horror. There are drops of black ooze everywhere upon him, crawling up his torso, along his arms, across the tops of his thighs and over his chest. He grunts and begins brushing at them, but they will not move. He opens his mouth to scream, but no sound comes out.
Now, if you'd told me that Sarah was going to read something to me where something disappears into a crack, and that was the way it was going to turn out, I would have been amazed.
Yeah, it's not the kind of fan fiction we're used to, is it? Like, you know, in that sense. I think
my reputation precedes me.
That was good. Even though, Sarah, you have kind of spoiled the rest of this like entire scene for listeners.
Sorry.
You know, like, there's no need to listen now for the next 5 minutes, guys. Just skip ahead. You know what happens.
That's fine. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie by now, I can't. Well, I can't help you with that.
Why are you listening to this exactly?
Imagine being cast in the part as first primitive. You know, like all those years at acting school or whatever. First primitive. It's kind of crazy to me. It's kind of like in the film The Favourite, there was a character credited as Wanking Man. It's that kind of thing, isn't it?
That's still the greatest thing to see pop up on Amazon Prime, I have to say, when they list the characters. Wanking Man. I'd retire after that. That'd be it. Where do you go after that? I'd call it quits.
Yeah, put it on the headstone.
Yeah. Before this gets really terribly crude, let's call it a day. I think that wraps up our latest Fight the Future Minute. Thank you for listening, everyone, to our crazy... This is what happens when we're in lockdown for a month, guys. We just lose our minds. So it's back to normal service. We're going back to the future. In the next minute. And you'll be back, Carl and Sarah, as the EBE finally shows his face. So yeah, we'll until our next minute, we'll see you then. And remember, as always, trust no one. Previously on the We Made This Network. The Movie Palace.
All right then, so Some Like It Hot. So yeah, I think the thinking here was just that, I mean, we did the lockdown episode last week. I thought it'd be good to do something light-hearted for the first full film discussion back. And I thought, you know, Some Like It Hot was a very strong contender to be that film. So what are your general thoughts on the film? And like, this wasn't your first watch, was it? I think this is one you'd seen a while ago, is that right?
Yes, that's true. I'd have to look at Letterboxd probably to pin down when I first saw the film, because that's how I keep track of my film watching. But it was some years ago, I think. I think it was around 5-6 years ago, maybe longer. Observing the Pattern, a Fringe podcast.
I think it's what is it the whole like Peter's like
about Peter being a bit of a nomad.
I think it's just Peter overreacting a little bit.
I think he definitely overreacts, but it is. I think it's a really good. It's a good interaction between these two, and it's a good scene. And I have to admit, I really like Joshua Jackson when he gets kind of intense like that.
Yeah.
For the majority of the show, he's like that as well. But in this scene, I really love.
We dig music.
Ben Folds, or Benjamin Scott Folds, is an American singer-songwriter, musician, composer and record producer from Chapel Hill in North Carolina in America.
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
It's next to North Carolina.
It is. It's sort of in between north and south, that's why it's Snorth.
Yes. Many people would say middle, not Colin.
Snorth? I think Snorth is a better word than middle.
Yeah.
I think middle's overrated. We'll go with Snorth.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.